Hey everyone, welcome to day 5 of Strixhaven spoilers. Before we get into breaking down these cards, I just wanted to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube video and the channel. You could also go and follow me at twitch.tv/Jarvis_Moonbeam. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jarvis_Moonbeam. And you could also join my Discord by following the link below. There's quite a few cards today, some good, some not so good, a lot of commons and uncommons of course, but let's get into it. First card is Dragon's Approach. It's 2 and a red. It deals 3 damage to each opponent. You may exile Dragon's Approach and 4 other cards named Dragon's Approach from your graveyard. If you do, search your library for a dragon creature card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. And you can have as many Dragon's Approaches in your deck as you want to. It's a lightning bolt to the face. It can't hit creatures. It's okay. If you build a deck around it, like all dragons and dragons approaches could be a cool commander deck. But I think it's more of a meme, not a dream. Academic Dispute is a single red. It's an instant. Target creature blocks this turn if able. You may have a game reach until end of turn. And it learns. So, this could be a cool little combat trick in Limited. I don't really think it's going to be viable in any constructed format. What I really like about this is you do get to learn. And in Limited, I believe learning and lessons are going to be very important. There we go. Conspiracy Theorist, 1 and a red. Whenever it attacks, you may pay 1 and discard your card. If you do, draw a card. Whenever you discard 1 or more non-land cards, you may exile 1 of them. If you do, you may cast it this turn. So this is a looting effect that also allows you to go and have card advantage. That if you discard a card that you're able to also cast this turn, you essentially paid 1 to draw a card. I think this card is very good. It should see a lot of play, and it's a good way to give red card draw that doesn't have the punishment of losing a card in your hand. Blood H General, it's 1 and a red. Tap it, attacking spirits get +1/+0 until end of turn, and it's a 2/2. Could be good if you have Spirit Tribal. It's good in draft just because it's a 2/2 body. And if you're able to make spirits work in, if you're able to make Lorehold work in draft, it's probably going to be a really good card for you. Start from Scratch, 2 and a red. It's a sorcery lesson. It either deals 1 damage to any target or destroy target artifact. 1 damage. 3 mana to destroy an artifact. Okay. Not really. Typically it's like 2. This card's crap. Such a bad card. Hall of Oracles. It's a land. Tap for a generic. Well, actually tap for a colorless. 1 generic, and you can tap to add 1 mana of any color. Tap for put a +1/+1 counter on a target creature. Activate only as a sorcery, and only if you've cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn. This card is shit. Hot shit, hot garbage. Never play it. Verdict Mastery. 5 and a green. You may pay 3 and a green rather than pay the spell's mana cost. This is a cycle, that the cycle has drawbacks. For this one, you search your library for up to 4 basic land cards and reveal them. Put 1 of them onto the battlefield tapped under opponent's control if you only played the 3 and a green. Put 2 of them onto the battlefield tapped under your control and the rest into your hand and then shuffle. So this is like a double Cultivate. Cultivate costs 2 and a green. So 3 mana, this costs 6. I would never cast this for the 4 mana because I don't like giving my opponents resources. Giving your opponents resources helps your opponent beat you. You don't want your opponent to beat you. Draconic Intervention, 2 and 2 red. As an additional cost to cast a spell, exile an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. It deals X damage to each non-dragon creature, where X is the mana value of the exiled card. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile instead, and you exile this card. Where Draconic Intervention is good is we have those 6 or 8 CMC cards that for 2 Izzet you discarded a card and made a treasure. With this card, you exile one of those cards, deal either 6 or 8 damage to all non-dragons. If you're able to do this with Tarolf out, it's GG's. You beat your opponent. Ardent Dust Speaker is 4 in a red, Minotaur Shaman. Whenever it attacks, you may put an instant or sorcery from your graveyard to the bottom of your library. If you do, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until end of turn, you may play those cards. A weird way to get card advantage, pretty decent. This would probably be cool in a Grenzo deck. Agyar Battleseer, 3 a blue and a red. Ogre Shaman, haste, scry 1. It's okay. It's a 3/4 with haste. And it has a scrying ability. Good limited card, not really playable anywhere else. Fractal Summoning, X Simic. Create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token, put X +1/+1 counters on it. So with them coming up, all the fractal creatures are 0/0s with +1/+1 counters. If enough of these cards are good, it's going to make Heartless Act bad. Ecological Appreciation, X2 and a green. Search your library and graveyard for up to 4 creature cards with different names that each have mana value X or less and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of those cards, shuffle the chosen cards into your library and put the rest onto the battlefield. Exile Ecological Appreciation. This card will be better in Commander than it is in Standard, but as a card like Emergent Ultimatum I showed you, if you pack your deck full with good creatures or good cards in general, you can go and turn the game around. Especially if you get hasty creatures or big beaters. Only downside, or give your creatures haste. Big downside to this is that it is a sorcery. If you do this on your opponent's turn, it'd be so much better. Of course, it's still really good. This card is going to be seen in Commander a lot. If he's in Commander, you could essentially get your win con by doing this. Good card. Karok Shepherd, 4 and a green. Elf Druid, that's a 3/3. With Magecraft, whenever you cast your copy an instant or sorcery spell, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Pretty okay for limited. I wouldn't play it in constructed. Tenured Inkcaster, 4 and a black. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it attacks, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It's a 2/2. It being a 2/2 is a downfall to it. Where it could become good. Sorry, still waking up again this morning. Where it could become good is if there's a lot of +1/+1 counter support, which we have seen some in green. We'll see some a little bit later in Orzhov. That this could be okay. It could also end up being very bad. But if you can make a +1/+1 counter deck in limited, this would be a card you want to have. Teach by example. Is it? Whenever you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Copying spells is a very is-it thing. Probably won't be played in constructed. Probably won't be played in limited. But it might be played in Commander if someone's deck concentrates around copying spells. But this is the second or third one in Standard now. I double vision, and I think there's also there's one in Kaldheim that does this, copying the spells, and none of them ever see play in Standard. Archway Commons, it enters tapped. Sacrifice it unless you pay 1 generic. Add 1 mana of any color. Good limited mana fixer, bad everywhere else. Elemental Masterpiece, 5 blue and a red. Actually, let's go back. It's in the common slot, so we'll see. 5 red and blue. 2/4/4 blue and red elemental creature tokens. You discard it, create a treasure. Works well with that draconic intervention. This, so far, I think is one of the most powerful cards in the set. Strixhaven Stadium, 3 generic, artifact, tap for a colorless mana, put a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, you remove a point counter from Strixhaven Stadium. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, you put a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. And if it has 10 or more point counters on it, remove them all, and that player loses the game. So, in Standard, you have multiple go-wide decks. Right now, there's a Naya deck going around, Naya Adventures, that kind of concentrates on Clarion Spirit, making 1/1 spirits in the air, concentrates on Toski, concentrates on just going wide with 1/2s, 2/1s, 2/2s, 1/1s to go and do damage that way. And using Showdown of Scalds to go and grow them larger. This card could be game ending in there. Even more token decks or go wide decks in Commander, you could go and kill your opponents 1 by 1 by 1 with this card. I like it a lot. I would definitely play it. Hall Monitor is a single red. Lizard Shaman, 1/1 with haste. For 1 in red, tap it, target creature can't block this turn. Dude, limited all-star. 1/1 for 1 with haste. If you see this in limited, you're gonna draft it. You can't get much better for low curve than 1/1s with haste. And even better, late game, it can be game ender by letting a big beater get through. Zamone Quandix Prodigy, a green and a blue. Legendary Human Wizard for a generic and tapping. Put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. For 4 and tapping, draw a card. Control 8 or more lands, draw 2 cards instead. So this does 2 things for you. It allows you to ramp with a 1/2 body on a 2-drop Simic commander. Great. 2-drop Simic commanders. But then it also lets you draw a card, or draw 2. So it is a mana dump. Could be okay. It is a way of ramping. I don't see it seeing standard play. I could see it seeing some commander play. Someone might use it to try to play a toned down version of like Kinnan or Thrasios. So this could see play. Quandric Pledge Mage, 1 Simic. Merfolk Druid, that's a 2/2 with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Quandric's Pledge Mage. And this is so far my problem with that black creature with +1/+1 counters, because it seems like Quandrix is the one with +1/+1 counters so far. We still haven't seen much Witherbloom yet though, so we'll see. Manifestation Sage, Simic. Another cycle where it's the house colors. When it enters the battlefield, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number of cards in your hand. It's a 2/2. I don't think this is going to be very good in most places, because even playing green and blue in standard, a lot of times you might only have 3 cards in your hand, meaning that the fractal could get Heartless acted away. And it's only an ETB. I'm not a huge fan. The lower hold one's better. Cockwork Archivist, 6 generic with reach. 2 and tap, put target card from a graveyard on the bottom of his owner's library. Good for decks like Grenzo. Good mill protection, but it's not really. It's a 4/5 that you could go and use this card in limited as a good blocker, because it does have reach. And it is colorless, so that's nice. Reflective Golem is 3 generic. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Reflective Golem, you may pay 2 to copy that spell. If you do, you may choose new targets for the copy. That's pretty cool. I think it's a limited only card, but it's still pretty cool. Aether Helix, 3 a green and a blue. Return target permanent to its owner's hand. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If this wasn't 5 mana, this would see play in standard. The 5 mana makes this effect a little bit too expensive, especially at sorcery speed. I would probably play this in limited though. Leonin Light Scribe, 1 and a white. It's a cat cleric, that's a 2/2. Whenever you cast it or copy an instant or sorcery spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So this is prowess in white. And that's the problem, it's prowess in white. You're playing this in draft because it's a 2/2 for 2. Cuckoo. But you're not playing this in most other formats because white, it doesn't spell sling. Fervent Mastery, 3 and 2 red. You may pay 2 and 2 red rather than pay this spell's mana cost. If 2 and 2 red was paid, an opponent discards any number of cards and draws that many cards. Search your library for up to 3 cards, put them into your hand, shuffle, and discard 3 cards at random. You would not, unless you're playing in Commander and you're playing a political game to let your opponent get new cards in hand, you're never going to play the discounted cost, especially since it's only 1 mana difference. But this is essentially a big boy's gamble. I don't know how much it's going to see play. It could end up being really cool. If you have Graveyard Recursion, it could be really cool. It could be a combo creator. I actually like it a lot. Need to see what happens with it, but I can see it seeing quite a bit of play. Eureka Moment. 2 a green and a blue. Draw 2 cards. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. This is a big boy's Growth Spiral. Ghost Spiral was 2 mana to draw a card and put a land on. For 2 more mana, you get to draw an additional card. I'll play this. Definitely unlimited. I think that if Simic X is still around, Sultai, Abzan, all the good contenders. No, not Abzan, wow. I meant Bant. Sorry. All the good contenders are still seeing play, or Teamer. This is going to be played. It's card draw with ramp, and you do it on your opponent's end step. Accomplished Alchemist, 3 and a green. Elf Druid, tap, add 1 mana of any color. Tap for 2, add X mana of any one color, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. It's a 2/5. So, my problem with this card is the floor is super low. The floor is add 1 mana of any color. When I brought this up to some friends, they mentioned that Marwin's the same way. Bloom Tender's the same way. Solvala, the mono green one's the same way. There's 2 major differences between those cards and this card. One, their overall mana value is less. The most expensive one is 3 CMC instead of 4. 2, they generate mana off of having permanents either hit the battlefield or be on the battlefield in general. And that's like the number one thing that green excels at. This requires you to gain life. And green in life gain, it's either secondary or tertiary to green's life gain. If white was allowed to have mana dorks, fix white, you cowards. If white was allowed to have mana dorks, this would be a perfect white card, because in white, you're gaining life all the time. I just don't know if it's worthwhile to rely on gaining life on something that is in green's strength. On the flip side, it is a 2/5, so it is a mana dork that doesn't die easily. I'm not in love with it. I won't play it. I don't think most Commander decks will play it either. Emergent Sequence, it's 1 and a green. Search your library for a basic land card, then put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. That land becomes a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature that's still a land. Put a +1/+1 counter on it for each land you had to enter the battlefield on your control this turn. This is a cool commander card. I don't think it's a cool standard card. Because it does give you a creature, it does give you a land, but it gives you a land that in standard most often is going to be able to die to eliminate Heartless Axe. So it's not worth spending 2 mana to get your ramp blown up right away. This was one of the flip cards. Augmented Pigalist, 1 and 2 green. It's a troll druid that's a 3/3 with trample. As long as you control 8 or more lands, it gets +5/+5. What the hell, Wizards? We now have 3 3-drop beaters in mono green. You have Lovestruck Beast, that's a 5/5. You have Kanzando Mammoth, that's a 3/3. So Lovestruck Beast undercost it for a 5/5 because he can't attack unless you have a 1/1. Still sees massive play because it's a really good freaking card. Kanzando Mammoth. You can get up to a 7/7 as easily as cracking a Fabled Passage. This is a little bit harder because you have to have 8 or more lands, but once you have 8 or more lands, you're playing an 8/8 Trampler for 3 mana. The only reason why this won't see play as much as Kazandu or Lustruck is because it doesn't enable a turn 4 Great Henge. But the fact that mono green or green in general can have big green beaters that cap out a curve of 3 is ridiculous. Now the back of this card is Echoing Equation. It's 3 and 2 blue. It's a sorcery where you choose target creature you control. Each other creature you control becomes a copy of it until end of turn. Except those creatures aren't legendary if the chosen creature is legendary. This card is going to be played in some jank commander decks as a combo win. Or it could just be played as fun to go and eke out a draft win by copying big beaters. I don't think the backside of this is going to ever really be played in standard. I think the front side will be, but I think the backside is going to be completely ignored. Body of Research, 3 green, 3 blue. Create a fractal creature with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number of cards in your library. This is a commander card. If you're playing Simic, and you have, and I would say probably only Simic, because going past Simic, adding a third color, having those 3 pips of each color is a little rough. But if you're playing a Simic deck, play this card. You can get a 60/60, a 77 creature for 6 mana. It's hilarious. Letter of Acceptance, 3 generic. Tap it, add 1 mana of any color. 2 generic, tap it, sacrifice it, draw a card. Very Mind Stony, a little bit more expensive, but it also creates colored mana. Might be something that sees a budget replacement for Mind Stone, even though Mind Stone is already pretty budget in Commander. Pretty decent, actually. Team Penna, 1 generic. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has vigilance and trample. Each equipped creature token for 1 generic. Equip other creatures for 3 generic. So let's go back to that Simic card. If some reason you get that Simic card in draft, you draft Team Penna as well. In draft, decks are 40s, so say you're looking at about a 20/20. You could have a 20/20 beater for a total of 8 mana. A 20/20 Vigilant Trample beater for 8 mana. It's insane. Other than that, it's not very good. There's going to be fringe cases where it's good. For most cases, it's going to be bad. Square Up is 1 and a Simic. Target creature has base power 4 and toughness, 4/4 until end of turn. Only a limited card, either to go and pump one of your small creatures to go and block and destroy your opponent's creature, or to go and remove a big beater and make it a more manageable beater. Serpentine Curve, 3 and a blue. Create a blue fractal creature token. Put counters on it where X is 1 plus the total number of instants and sorcery cards you own in Exile and in your graveyard. The fact that they're also including Exile when you have... Well, actually, you can't use the cards for Foretell for this. Never mind. The reason why you can't use the cards for Foretell for this is because you don't know what they are. And they're exiled face down, so they're not common knowledge, so you can't use those. So remember, this could actually be better than I thought it would be. I still probably wouldn't play it in Limited. I mean in Standard. Maybe Limited. But probably not either. This could have a place in a Commander deck, but probably not that either. Expel, 2 and a white. Instant, exile, target tap creature. This will be played in Limited all day long. You have Iron Verdict still seeing play in Kaldheim when all it does is deal 5 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. Yeah, or I think it might be attack. But yeah, you're gonna go and play this card for sure. Mathematician, 1 a green and a blue. When it enters, you create a blue fractal, and you put a +1/+1 counter on each fractal you control. So, it enters as a 1/1. All your other fractals grow. If you're playing Simic in Limited, you're playing this. I don't know how much more you'd be playing this anywhere else, though. It only cares about fractals. I don't think it cares enough about other things to make it worthwhile. Quandix Cultivator, 1 a green, Simic and a blue. I still hate how they're doing that mana cost. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic forest or island card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. I like this card a lot. 4 limited. It's possible it could even be a standard card. Plus it's a turtle. Who doesn't love turtles? But the reason why I love it a lot is when it enters, you ramp 1. So it's 4 mana, ramp 1, but it comes in untapped. So you have that mana to do something else if you need it. I think it's really cool. Don't know how much it's going to see play in constructed or commander decks, but I can see it seeing fringe play in standard. Probably not so much in commander. Even though I'm saying that, people spend 4 mana on a Solemn Simulacrum to go and get a card. Sure, when it dies, you draw a card, but they pay 4 mana to get a tap land. So, who knows? If you're playing Simic, why not play this instead of Solemn? It gets you your colors that you need, and it's untapped. But that's the last card for today. What do you guys think? Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Are there cards you love that I hated? Are there cards I hated that you loved? Let me know. But until tomorrow, have a good one.